Hello and welcome back to video 2 of chapter 3. All right. On the last video, we started talking about the dynamic RAM. They're called dynamic because the data in the memory doesn't stay there because they're made up of capacitors. Once the capacitors are charged, they start to discharge immediately, so they always need to be refreshed. And if you turn the power off, the capacitors get discharged. They are constantly changing, dynamic. All right, so let's talk about the types of DIMMs. There are really 3 types that I want you to know, and they are all right here, and I want you to write these down. So the 288 pin DDR4, DDR stands for double data rate 4, supports quad or 2 channels, or can function as one DIMM. Low voltage consumption, that's very important. So you definitely want that. It doesn't use a lot of power. Quad channel memory controller can access up to 4 RAM modules at the same time. So that's the latest and the greatest. That's definitely what you need on your motherboard. And to make sure, of course, that your CPU supports the DDR4. So you want to have 4 memory modules installed at the same time. Now, with a 240 pin DDR3, the triple channel DIMMs, 3 DIMMs must be installed. If you install 4 DDR3s, then the triple channel will be disabled. So that's not a good idea. So you want to install them only 3 at a time. And typically the motherboard will only have 3 slots for you. If it has 4 slots, just populate 3 of them, because otherwise they'll be accessing 1 DIMM at a time if you put 4 of them. Make sure to install the 3 DIMMs in the blue slots away from the CPU. Again, you will see that. Now, there's also an old 240 pin DDR2, which is a dual channel. All right, so you want to have a 64-bit microprocessor with DDR4 memory installed on the motherboard, right? That's the best way to go. These are the old types of memories, all right? So most likely you will not deal with them, all right? There's also, there is the SO memory. Remember, the DRAMs are installed on memory modules, and they are installed in memory slots. Desktop PCs use DIMMs, which stands for dual inline memory modules, and laptops use what's called SODIMMs, small outline DIMMs. Okay? There's the old SIMs and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know a lot of that stuff. All right, so here is the memory controller. So if you have a DDR, it's going to use all 4 channels and send data for 64 bits to the microprocessor, because the processor is 64-bit at a time, and they'll be able to process data with twice as many as this 32-bit processor. And if you have a DDR4, that's even better, of course, right? All right, so there's the blue slots. What else do you need to know? Let's talk about memory speed. DIMM's speed is measured in megahertz or in PC rating. When I say PC rating, you'll see something like PC4 equal to 24,000. So, for example, let's take a look at the example. I think they have it in here. A DDR4 DIMM that runs at 3,000 megahertz, 3 gigahertz, has a bandwidth or transfer rate of 3,000 times 8, or 24,000 megabits per second. And this can be expressed as PC rating PC4 24,000. All right, so it can be labeled as PC4. You'll know what that means. All right, a DIMM supports, there are also some DIMMs that supports ECC, I'm sorry. What is ECC? ECC is, it's going to have an extra chip on the module, And the ECC chip compares bits written in the module to what later is read from the module. And it can detect and correct errors in a single bit or a byte. Older memory used something similar called parity, but parity is less reliable. So if you purchase a DIMM with ECC, that's good. That's good for servers. That's very important because that you're going to have redundancy in case there's an error. It's going to make sure that the data is that is being written or read are good, right? There's also something called buffers. You can get something with memory buffers in the memory modules. Buffers, or sometimes you call them registers, they hold data and amplify the signal before the data is written to the module. And they can increase memory performance in servers. So in older memory modules, we call the buffers registers. All right. There's also another one called another memory feature is called the CAS memory, CAS, which stands for column access stroke, which is a way of measuring access timing. The feature refers to the number of clock cycles it takes to write or read a column of data of memory module. The lower the values are better than the higher values. All right, so let's talk about now how to upgrade. These are the different types of memory on a laptop, and it's pretty much the same as the desktop. But now let's get into upgrading the memory. All right, so you need to ask yourself several questions when you want to, before you upgrade your memory. All right, so please write these questions down, right down here. All right, number one, how much RAM do I need? Of course, you want to use the maximum amount you can, but check the motherboard manufacturers for limitation. 64-bit Windows supports up to 2 terabyte of memory, which is great. A 30-bit, 32-bit Windows operating system can support up to 4 gigabyte of RAM. So just remember that. All right, the next question you want to ask yourself is, how much memory do I have currently installed? So you can check the system operating system. Just type system information in Windows. In the search text box, or go to Windows BIOS, UEFI. They'll tell you how much memory you have installed in there. What type of memory is currently installed? Well, the only way to do that is by opening up the case and looking at the memory slots and the memory and the manufacturers and what you have. How many and what kind of modules can I fit into the motherboard? Definitely have to ask that question. So the only way to do that is either you go to the manufacturer's website, read the documentation that comes with the manufacturer's motherboard, right? So definitely you have to look into that, because you can't just buy any type of memory and don't think that it's going to fit into any motherboard. All right, how do I select and purchase the right modules for my upgrade? Okay, so remember, here's something to remember. Please write the following down. I know it's going to be a pain, but this is very important. Write these points right here, right up here. For mixing, I'll read them out for you. Mixing unbuffered memory with buffered or registered memory is not going to work. When matching memory, you should also match the module manufacturers for best results. But in a pinch, you can try using memory from 2 different manufacturers. If you mix memory speeds, know that the modules will always perform at the slowest speed. So don't go cheap and because you've seen something that is a lot less expensive and mix the speeds, you can operate at the lower speed anyway. Now look at how to use the website or the computer to add search for the right memory. All right, so you didn't have to write that down actually. Now, how do you physically install the modules? Well, I think that's pretty straightforward. Installing the modules, again, make sure you have a wristband when you are installing them. Make sure you move the clips out. You install, make sure that there's notches in there on the DIMMs. Press down, don't touch the modules. And press it down and let the clips go over the module itself, right? That's pretty much it. Make sure you're wearing a wristband, right? I told you that. Same thing with laptops. When you're upgrading laptops, be very careful. Again, wear a wristband, and usually they are laid down, and there's a notch that will allow you to flip the memory out. All right? And that's it. All right, so hopefully you gained some experience about some little bit of knowledge on CPUs and memory. Write down whatever I told you to write down and upload that as homework. And I'll see you on chapter 3. Chapter 4, I think, is the next one. All right. Until then, keep up with the reading. I'll see you.